Okay. Okay. Um. Does this work? Twitch.tv/cake OW poggers. Okay. Okay. Cool. I think it's working. We. Um. Cool. Okay. So if anyone's wondering, I'm kind of trying to fix my desk right now, or like everything surrounding my desk, not my actual desk, but I've got a tablet right on my mouse pad, and then my mouse ends up getting like 2 inches of space, which is fun. Um, so anyway, life, cool. Um, so yeah, I'm bored, and this is a thing. Here, I want to check this works. Re, testing. Okay, that's decent. Hello. How are you? Archie, this is cool. Um, okay, cool. That's gonna annoy me for the next like few minutes. But anyway. Um, ooh. Uh, cool. I don't know why I'm using my pen to try and scroll and stuff. So, I'm not sure if I analyzed Shock game or if I analyzed Titans game. Because Shock was kind of a roll, but Shock are good. But then Titans are us, and they've also got I'm not sure if I want to look at the um like Rhinorissa mirror on Jamestown, or if I want to like look at something actual or something that would be run elsewhere. Um, because like I like the Rhine mirror, but then it's also where else are you gonna run it, kind of thing. Um, anyway, cool. Let's cycle through this. So New York played ADS 2-0, Hanamura 2-1. That's so they both got to second point. But then that didn't end, so that was probably I would assume New York, considering how everything else went, I would assume that they managed to just um win on a second ult push as opposed to just snowballing all the way through. But then Vancouver, when they pushed, uh, they'll have probably stalled out first point, or else they just messed up a second ult push. Um, but as well, that's decent. Um, only thing is that they'll have both teams will have kind of rolled past um, first point, so that makes it like way less interesting. Because wait, does this look? No, that looks way worse. My hand is shaking. Um, damn it, I got rid of it. High stream. Okay, cool. But anyway, so if I want to look at this, I would probably want to look at this map because Lijiang is a decent map, or I'd look at Havana. But I'm not sure if I want to look at an escort map in this meta because it will be just resident sleeper. Okay. Then what else is there? Ooh, ooh, that looks decent. Okay, yeah, I might actually go Shock and Titans. That looks like a decent lineup. And then Volskaya is probably good. Li Sheng will be Stomp even if it's, well, probably not a Stomp, but it'll probably have been just specific comps winning comp matchups, and so that's kind of boring. Busan, meh. Havana, meh. I don't like Havana. Kingswear is just standard stuff. And they both steamrolled through first point, so it's not, well, they will have most likely, so it's kind of, yeah, I don't want to check that. So yeah, I'll probably do that then. Highlight, upload. Should probably turn that off before I get banned. What is that? Volskaya was what? Map 3? Map 2. Game 2. Shark versus Titans. Um, okay, I need to actually find where it starts. Otherwise, this is useless. Um, okay. I'm not sure if I prefer to get this on YouTube, but like, okay, whatever. I think you can still kind of see it. Turn captions off. Yeah, so Volskaya, I like Volskaya as a TCP map. I think it's one of the better ones. I think first point is really hard to defend a lot of the time because it's hard to defend in specific metas. It's not hard to defend um, when you kind of have the resources that enable you to kind of use the positions you're given. But it ends up being kind of a mirror in how it's attacked and how it's defended. Um, and that's what I really like about it because it means that you've got positions that are entirely, like, it's entirely positional based. If you take control of the high ground, you win. If you um, either take control of the high ground or take control of the point, if you do either of those things, you win. But anyway, so let's start with Shock on defense. So Shock running Hogorissa. So immediately, what you see from Hogorissa is that they want to play at a longer distance. They don't want to, or at least they want to punish you from a longer distance. They don't want to enter into a brawl fight because Hog basically dive hero. Um, like the way he works is he presents a threat at a longer range, or not dive but long range. Um, so in basic long range, then you've got it works in the same way as a dive. You punish them as soon as they enter any vulnerable space. That's exactly the way that Winston or Hammond would work previously. Um, and a lot of the time, in fact, it's not even Orisa isn't even main tank because she's just enabling Hog to survive. She means that he doesn't get one shot from across the map. Not that that would happen, but it means that he doesn't get immediately spammed out because he's got a shield in front of him, and she's capable of constantly placing that shield. And so technically, I wouldn't say she acts like basically as an off tank half the time when you're playing Orisa Hog. In contrast, Orisa Diva, this is definitely um, definitely main tank. I can't handwrite on this pad. Free. Um, but so yeah, so you've got they want to contest from a longer range. They want to take control of the chokes. They want to just be looking at them from a further distance. If we have the choke here, then they don't want to be up here. If they're up here, then the corner is here, and so then you've got they come in through there, then immediately you're presenting a threat in close range. That's not what they want to happen. What they want to happen is instead that you start off um, re- um, instead that you start off with corners here. They're here. They come around the corner. They try to enter the choke. They're further back, and then they can just pressure you throughout, and they punish you as soon as you're in that kind of more exposed space where you don't have an actual kind of cover. This is a danger zone kind of thing. Um, but yeah, so not that you're but yeah, so they want to present a threat with a longer range threat with their front line, and that enables them to take very, very solid control over positions. I should also mention whole hook. It does kind of tie into the whole Hog is good at hooking things thing. Um, you're playing throughout with re you're playing throughout with the intention of just punishing them through hook. If there's the threat of hook there throughout, um, and because of that, you have to play significantly further behind cover, and you have to play very safe in order to actually take control of positions. And a lot of the time on attack, that's your entire thing. Your entire thing is going to be how do I take control of these positions? They have all the spaces available to them based on defense. Um, how am I going to push into here in a way that I can actually take the point and present a threat to the point? How do I use this? Because you've been given 4 minutes, and so that's the in terms of attackers versus defenders. Attackers start off with time. Um, whereas defense has space. So what you want to do is the attackers want to give up their time, and then they want to use that to take the space. And then if they take the space, then they take control point. It's like they've been given a jigsaw that isn't finished and they have to find the pieces or something. Or at least that's how I think of it. So you want to take control of the space, and then and use that time to do so. And so what Vancouver want to do um, is like Vancouver want to prevent Shock from being able to just survive forever in their positions in their space. Um, because they want to play it on their own terms. You want to be playing every fight here, um, with the idea that it's you're the ones pushing here. They're not the ones pushing you. Um, and if they end up being the ones that push you, then that should be their mistake. They should be falling off because of that. Like you need to be in the end. You need to be the ones attacking. You need to be the ones pressuring, or else you just stay on the point and then you survive. That's the other option, but that's not something that almost ever happens. Or ever happens actually. Um, I do know. I still haven't covered the other comp. Vancouver, meanwhile, are playing this. So they're playing Ursativa, which is very, very different. Uh, just to be clear, Orisa Hog and Ursativa are not the same thing, not equal in any way. Um, as I kind of said here before, Hog is played not main or not. He's played as main tank basically. He presents the threat, and then as soon as you kind of move into close range, then that becomes the then at that point it kind of becomes main tank, and Hog's only goal is just to present a threat, and you're just trying to enable Hog to do the damage. But the idea is that as soon as they've got into close range, they've used too many resources. They lack the material necessities to kill you. And you should be able to deny them the material necessities to kill you. But yeah. So meanwhile, Ristiva is very heavy on just keeping shield up. If you keep so you both keep shield up and you deny any engaging close range. So that's why you'd play it with May Reaper, because May Reaper is static. They're both heroes that rely on like single cooldown. So you've got Wraith, and you've got Ice Block, and so both of those abilities are things which you use once, um, and then you're out of them. If you get pushed without either of those, then you are screwed. Um, and so Diva plays to help that. You want to be able to survive up until the time that they push you, and then at that point, you have those abilities available to you, and so you're just playing to maintain those. Um, and so that's why they play static, because they want to play in the same location. They don't want to play in any location where they might not be able to get value out of those. Um, but so then just inject, yeah. So Matrix just works. Nothing, no damage apart from beams, goes through um, up until the time that DM ends. So as long as DM is active, then it can swallow a lot of damage, and so it means that you can actually move somewhere and you can actually play in close range for a significant period of time. Um, okay. So anyway, um, let's go over these DPS lineups. Let's say. So both running May. Hang on, delete all this. Both running May. This is fairly standard. May survives a ton, which is why she's played a lot. She can survive forever because she's got Ice Block, and if it takes 2 engages for you to be able to kill something, then usually it's not worth killing it. So May is played because she can be played very aggressively. And she gets a lot of value out of that. If you can freeze everything in front of you, like, that's insane. And so, and her abilities are, and especially Wall is very powerful at meaning that you can survive for a lot longer. And it means that you can isolate people. And if you can isolate people by, so for example, if I just draw a square, this is a top down of just some point, or let's say you've got like this is the point here. If you like, you could probably visualize this as Nepal village. Um, if you like wall this area off, then you only have to damage out here. And if you only have to damage out there, then you basically win. If you can focus all your resources into one specific location, and they can't do anything through here, then they have to basically mirror and counter your resources in the form of that arrow. Which is why Maywall ends up being so powerful. Um, then you've got differences. You've got Hanzo, and then you've got Reaper. So as I said, Reaper works significantly better with D.Va, with okay, my headset just turned off for some reason. I'm gonna fix that real quick. Oh yeah. But yeah, so Reaper works much better with a static defense lineup um, because it's uh, sorry. Cool. Uh, cool. Um, so yeah, what was I saying? Um, yeah, so Reaper works really well with um, static tank lines, being able to stay in the same position forever and being able to get value out of that position forever. And so that's what you're trying to go for there. You're trying to get a position where you can survive forever, and they need to contest you. But so then, and then he also presents a ton of damage, which is really good because he if anything walks into him at close range, then they die. That's generally the point. Um, Hanzo is basically very shield focused. If you don't have a shield, then you die. Um, that's basically the thing. You've got a lot of spam coming through. You deny shield, and he's basically more enabling Hog than he is acting as a DPS here. I keep on accidentally right-clicking he's protecting Hog and enabling Hog more than he is doing anything else. And that's fine. He's just spamming at shield, denying its ability to actually work, and so the other team have a much harder time just surviving and pushing through. Yeah. But anyway, so finally, it's been almost half an hour, and I haven't yet gone over the entire comp or even started the VOD. So both teams playing BAP, different reasons though, because Shock just want to play BAP because they want to enable their frontline. They keep their frontline alive. They keep these guys alive especially, and then Hog can play in close range for a super long period of time, and then no one dies. Um, I'm not sure about the Ana pick here. I always prefer Zen. Um, I expect that they went with the Ana pick because they expect Vancouver to not want to play a mirror. Normally, the mirror that you end up seeing is so Mei, Hanzo, Orisa. That's not an O. Orisa, Hog, Bap, Zen, and that's mirrored. Uh, but what you end up seeing here is that obviously they've got an Anna instead of the Zen. So general reasoning behind that is reasoning behind wanting to play Anna or so first I'll just go over why you'd want to play Zen in a lot of situations is that in a 1v1 matchup when you're playing wrist hog together, and then you've got basically two zones, and so you don't want to be. So if this is hog in the middle of each zone, you don't want to be dueling the hog in long range. You don't want to be fighting the hog whatsoever at long range, so you end up staying behind cover the entire time. Both teams will end up staying entirely behind cover the entire time because there's literally no point in doing anything else. But and so then you end up playing entirely in close range, and then that means as a result you just you don't get any value out of Anna because it's a very one-sided fight. You aren't going to survive in close range when you've got damage from Hanzo, Mei, and Hog coming through, especially Mei, because that's mostly not damage, that's CC. So if you've got CC in close range, that's not going to be helped whatsoever by Anna. That's just going to be bursted through, and she can't heal for that long. And so because of that, what you end up seeing is you just full on engage on it, and usually you'll end up winning that engage. The reason why you play Anna is if at any point you expect your front line to have to play much slower, and you expect your front line to get pushed to in a position where you can't actually kind of react. Or you wouldn't be able to react if you didn't have the healing up. And so a lot of the time Anna's played kind of nade to punish at a longer range position, as well as just kind of, how do I say this? Enabling the front line to play in more aggressive positions for longer period of time, basically. So that's kind of weird, but I expect it's because they expect Vancouver to be playing this. And so because they're playing the Reaper May, then likelihood is you're going to need a lot more sustain because you're going to be largely playing around the range and the lack of range that Reaper May has. You want to be primarily kind of disrupting them and then forcing resources out over time. You can't really nearly as easily go for just an immediate engage and expect it to have the same value that you might have against something with someone vulnerable like Hanzo or Anna or something like that. Meanwhile, Vancouver, they're playing Bap Lucio. Lucio is normal. You're playing a close range comp. Of course, you want speed boost. That's just logic. You're playing a close range comp which is reliant on you being able to actually get past shields. So of course you're going to be playing Lucio because you need that speed boost if you want to actually move into a position where you can into a relative position where you kill them. That's standard logic. The BAP is kind of weird though. BAP would generally be played when you're trying to hold a position rather than and genuinely play Moira here. But BAP is going to be played here because you're more. I expect Titans are much more heavy on just being able to kind of take control of the point, take control of specific positions, and then use that to their advantage. So finally, we play the VOD. Okay, let's check that works, and then find out it doesn't. So no switches made. No. So initially, shock setup on the high ground, that's standard. You want vision on both sides. This position which Vancouver are moving through is kind of confirms what I mean. They are vulnerable right now. They are very vulnerable right now. And so they want to take control of the right side of the point, and so that enables them to play in a much safer environment for a longer period of time. Shock, meanwhile, they just want to hard punish this. Choi has hook up. They're going to be trying to hook this. Stitch is going to wall this. And then what Shock are going to end up probably having to do is they're going to be trying to punish over time as they move through here, and then just punish them from the outside here. Because Shock will always have an advantage at the longer range. Here. As I said, hooks. This is likely the position which BAP is going to want to use field at if he feels anyone is in danger or not. Apparently no one is in danger here. So, one sec. Cool. So they rotate here. Why am I still using my pen? So now you can kind of see what Shock are trying to set up. So you've got one angle here, then you've got a separate angle from here. They don't really want to take control of here just yet, or they don't want to try for that just yet. There's no point of trying to take that angle just yet, because you're probably just gonna get pushed out. Later, as soon as you've created an opening, then might be an idea, but otherwise, no. But so notice how Shock are able to control the point, even though they don't actually. They aren't physically on it because they're playing a longer range comp. You see Choi is playing slightly more aggressive here, or more forward position rather, I shouldn't say aggressive. But yeah, and so then Vancouver are basically going to try to hold out here, and then they probably try to pull someone down, create an opening through punishing this position, or they otherwise, yeah, I don't see any other position they might be able to take, but I think controlling Mega here is a decent plan. It's not the best position you can take on this map, but for the comp that they're playing right now, it's the only position that they can really comfortably take. As I said, they want to be trading their time, the time that they've been given by the clock for resources from the opposition and for control of point. So they hold out here. Bump moves to point, tries to contest point. Now someone has to drop. Smurf begins to drop. Gets halted. So now you've got Shock on the point. They're relatively vulnerable. So now the fighting begins to start, and so you want to be. The Architect just wants to be playing a longer range here. Choi Choi just wants to be presenting a threat here. As long as there's a crossfire here, then the other team can't push through here. Rappel is low, which is unfortunate. But it's unlikely to do anything, and then they're just going to use Immortality Field to hold out here. Vancouver are playing for a much longer fight than is normally seen in Reaper May, because you wouldn't normally spend this much time out in the open. Notice that they're completely away from any cover at this point. They're entirely reliant on shield, which is an occurrence as a result of just shields being good and PP being able to survive behind shield for a long period of time, like it or not. But and then shock at the same time. Violet's been taken low, but Moss used Mortality Field. That might be an issue, but Choi is controlling the high ground, so it should be fine. I'm thinking like. So that gets destroyed, but that's fine. As you can see, Choi is doing a lot from high ground here. And so regardless, Rascal's able to get onto point, and you can kind of see the comparison of positions here. So one main one, 1, 2, 3. You've got someone contesting point, basically. So Rascal is basically attention. Choi is Choi's kind of the main threat here. And so because he's the main threat, he's the one that isn't actually doing much damage, he's just being there. Meanwhile, Architect, Moth, Violet, and Smurf somewhat are just presenting a threat from main, and they're kind of denying the ability for the other team to actually move forward whatsoever. So yeah. Hey, how's it going? That guy's taken out. Johnny tries to contest somewhat, tries to push him off. If he did push him off, then that would be good. They would win. Easy clap. If he doesn't, then nothing happens. There's Vancouver entirely based around not using any resources whatsoever, so and they don't actually have to. Why didn't you sleep? That's not a great idea. Now, Shock have basically won this. Or likelihood is that they win this. Rappel takes out Moth. What is Violet doing? Oh my god. Okay. So what happened there with this? This is really unfortunate. Wow. Impressive. I don't have any bots or anything. It's okay, what happened there? So okay, so Rappel used Amp Matrix. That means that everything up there dies. And as soon as, and so normally what you get is anything on that high ground has an immediate extreme advantage, and so that's why you'd want to hold that. And then so he's basically capable of using that to just entirely turn the fight. Because even if he's the only one really doing much through it because you've got primarily uh, close range GPS. He's kind of capable of enabling that because no one is capable of actually presenting a significant threat or shielding this. And so, really, Violet and Moss should have dropped at this point. So, just drop immediately. Um, and then they are somewhat vulnerable because they're no longer on the high ground. But at the same time, they're not going to be killed with Amp Matrix, and they have a line of sight towards their team. Um, in playing that high ground position, they were just always going to be vulnerable. If they tried to play it safe, then they would have no connection with their team whatsoever. Um, and really, overall, Shock could have made that significantly better had they just played significantly more aggressive there. As soon as you see the um, like, because really, Rappel is vulnerable here in this comp. A significant part of this comp is just it's not vulnerable. But as soon as you've got a BAP instead of a Moira, then you want to be pushing that significantly harder. And I think they failed to recognize that, and they failed to adapt appropriately so that they could immediately punish as soon as that immortality field was used. I think Architect could have taken a much longer angle at this point. Smurf should have pushed further, and they kind of same as I just did. They missed the fact that that's incredibly strong, and that's all they're playing for. Um, they're just playing to take control of the high ground, and then with that they win. Um, so let's see. Violet and Moth both die, um, but luckily, so really from this position, um, they should just be Vancouver should just be playing super slow here. They should be backing off back inside, and that's what most of them have done there, but not all of them, and that's noticeable. People low. Seminsu, this is fine. There is nothing that Seminsu can do wrong at this point because there's, yeah, um, apart from die. But he didn't. Slime and Stitch both die. Man, guess. Um, and so now, yeah, that's fine. I don't think I need to comment on Slime and Stitch dying. That's just unlucky. I think that was a decent attempt from Roscoe there in attempting. He basically just tried to split them with the Blizzard, and so that would have enabled Shock to play much faster. Because as soon as you lose these guys, then you want to be immediately playing much faster if you want to continue to hold that. You do now have the issue of Stitch has Blizzard, but I think it was worth it to use that because I think had Shock taken a wider angle, had taken a wider angle initially and tried to abuse the lack of Moira further, then they could have won that more easily. But anyway, so second point. Second point is very close range. And honestly, I think Vancouver are going to want to switch. They're going to want to switch to something that can enable a Hogorissa fight. Because I wouldn't be comfortable whatsoever. Considering because it's very close range and it's very single angle. Just a single line of approach. Whatever you do, you're going to be vulnerable throughout, and so the point is incredibly strongly held. Whereas on first point is much more split, and so it's much harder to do anything with it. Especially for the defense. This is much easier to hold for defense, and so I wouldn't be playing Reaper May here, although they're probably going to yeah, just keep playing this. One second. Cool. Um, okay. So now you've got this part, and so Choi has Choi has ult, Smurf has ult, Rascal is surprisingly close to ult. How? That's insane. Moth has ult, and so there aren't any issues with ult. Stitch is going to want to immediately Blizzard. He wants to play this very fast because I think Vancouver will know that they're at a disadvantage in trying to push this fight. And so you want to be immediately using that. You want to immediately be following up with this as soon as you've got into a equal fight, or else you probably want to set up with what's it called? Bongo, whatever it is. You probably want to set up with Bongo and then use that further to be able to enable your mate to take a wider angle. As soon as you, issue's probably going to be that you just have kind of a lot going on at the same time. So you're gonna try and have to find an opening in they might lack setup, or they might be able to be split, and so you want to be. So right now, what they're trying to do is they're trying to mirror a strong position on point, surrounding point. You want to immediately move into a close range fight. You don't want to be punished initially, which is what they're doing. So that's good. Use Amp immediately, which is so I'd assume that's going to be just primarily to deny anything trying to poke out or something. But then that accomplishes relatively little, but it's like oh, Smurf is fairly low. Does he get Smurf?
To the mix as well. Boosted up.
Okay. They get surprisingly good value out of that, I think. I think Shock in that exchange had difficulty just in general positioning their support again. That support lineup was not in a safe position. You shouldn't be playing that split when you don't have or at least you should have some way to interact with your team immediately, and you should be immediately dropping down and playing with your team. You're trying to aid your team. You're not trying to aid your team in some magical positions. Had Shock's front line been here, I would understand this position, but I don't understand this position. Well, not that I don't understand it. It's the reason why they go for it is because I think they want to just pressure them out with like some nade pressure or something, or just kind of deny them this area, I guess. But when the other team has amp matrix up, then there's no way you can sustain this position. So I would just play play with the front line forever here. Like, Shot can be playing much more aggressively here because they're playing with a BAP as opposed to a Moira. You're not playing with an abundance of kind of resources that would enable you to survive forever. It's like Rappel's immortality field goes down instantly. You want to be playing um, with your front line, abusing the fact that you have hook, and then start pushing more aggressively and start just really destroying their shield. Don't be playing on the high ground like a dumbass. Cool. And so then now, oh my god, they get Troy as well. Okay. So they get Stitch, and they get, oh my god, why are you trying to push that position? What value do you get out of it? You're in a vulnerable situation when you're pushing that position. You're not gonna get anything out of it. Like, just okay. I forget. So the architect. Stitch comes back on Doom because he's not getting any value on May at this point. There's no reason why he should get value on May, and Doom is much better on the kind of final fight. And so now they're going to move to like a 1 minute break or something because that's what Overwatch League does. Reload, please. Bruh. Okay. So Vancouver playing. Again, they want to play this comp with defense. Which is that strange? It's somewhat strange, yeah, because you want to be. I'm not sure how you. And I Shock playing. Okay, Shock playing the exact same comp on attack here. Okay, Architect gets stitched immediately. So main thing here is that Vancouver want to be abusing the fact that they have control of the point initially. If they have control over the point initially, then it's much easier for you to be able to actually abuse that position and play slower over time, and then you can just waste the other team's time forever. You have the downside of not having the ability to influence the opposition's kind of movements initially. But if you're able to base, so at this point you can basically split it down to two phases, being first phase being like that first area, and then second phase being around this kind of point area. Vancouver want to play around this second corner. They want to play this corner or the other one, the other side of point. If they do that, then they're able to control that completely. There's no attack which isn't going to be capable of being defended. I think the main issue that you potentially have is if you want to control the high ground here, but at that point Vancouver would want to try and punish this rotation through here, which should be relatively easy because you can see everything. But then you also have the advantage of having a diva, which means that it's much more difficult for them to hook you, and it also just means that Shield can survive for much longer despite you being at long range, and then you can start pushing them, and you can use the cover available to you to just hide, basically. they just want to win the fights here. They don't really want to kind of influence any kind of startup position. Um, Meanwhile, Shock on the other hand, they're playing kind of long range combat. As I said, they're playing with Hog, so they're basically playing to set up for an opening on a dive, and so they're going to be wanting a much greater position initially, something that surrounds the other team, and so they're going to be primarily wanting to. They'll probably want a Hanzo up here, and then they'll just want to be circling around here, and then as soon as they get past this corner, as soon as they can pressure past this corner, then they win, because they survive forever. If you can force what's an unstable fight, then it's you win. You win in this comp, because then from that point you can play a longer range and you can create a crossfire. And as soon as you create a crossfire against a Reaper comp, then you start being able to push them because you're presenting constant pressure to them throughout like everything. Um, um, so now they're on point. That was um, okay. Stitch gets killed. Now they're holding here. And then Sominsu is okay. Sominsu is trying to take an angle from cross here, which is interesting, I guess. So his main goal here is he's recognised that Architect wants to take control of here. If Architect takes control of here, probably with Moth alongside him, then they set up basically a battery here. And so then you're going to have a lot of issues. So you've got Sominsu. He wants to come over here and he wants to contest this. Basically act as the counter. And so then from that position, then Shock are forced to extend here. And you've got people actually legitimately vulnerable down there. And so you're going to be basically able to pressure fully here. Your main concern here is going to be Choi, who's going to extend around here, and he's going to try and survive there. And for that, you're going to need to um, probably just wall them off, or else you just want to immediately push this. Um, you're gonna Vancouver are gonna want to play this super fast as soon as they take control of that position. So I don't want to do that. Vancouver gonna want to play super fast as soon as they've taken control of that position. If they get a Sumitsu from there to there, an Architect is forced down, having used resources, then you're just going to want a hard pressure shield because they're going to be forced to back off and use that corner. And again, you're forcing a corner fight. And as soon as you force the corner fight, then you've actually got control of that space. Previously, Shock would have wanted to take control of this kind of area, but then you're kind of limited here. But primarily, Vancouver are going to have issues and going to be exploited by the fact that Simmons has issues surviving up here because he only has Wraith Form, and so you need to actually have some consistent pressure, especially against Simmons, in order to kind of contest that. Because otherwise, Shock just divert their resources to contesting the high ground, which is a logical and smart thing to do, and then from there they win. Because they killed the Reaper, or else they just force Reaper down and then subsequently pressure the high ground. So Seventy. Wait, what happened to 70? There. Teleports. That's to be expected. He doesn't walk off. Okay, good. Um, that's mildly weird teleport, but it's micro, so whatever. That's okay. So Bumper Bumper has to use Fortify here. That means that he can't place a shield in the future. If he tries to push here and then he tries to place a shield and he's run out of Fortify, then Troy's just going to push him from the side and deny him. Because of that, Storm 2 can't take control of the high ground. Um, and as a result, you don't have the dual threat. So instead, Sominsu's kind of recognized that, or it's been called out by someone, and Sominsu is killing the pad thing, pressuring the backline, recognizing that Shockov have a relatively quite vulnerable backline in the way that they've been playing it in weird positions. Um, at this point, I would have preferred a more extended backline, recognizing the fact that Shunmitsu is not going to be taking an angle around her. He doesn't have a position around her, and so your backline is basically safe entirely if they take a separate position there. Whereas if they should attempt to just and so if you had the supports rotate round to kind of the barrel things, then you enable your team to actually take control of this position. But regardless, Soman2 is pressuring the backline, and so that just gives him time because it means that he can survive for a lot longer because he's not immediately hard committing. Um, Architect is still going to get minimal value because no one in Vancouver has committed. But regardless, Shock still has an advantageous position. They're on the point, and Bumper is going to need to wait until he gets Fortify back up, as well as Wall having denied support from Diva, I believe. Uh, sorry. But yeah, um, Shock are going to get probably one or two ticks. And so the main concern here is going to be just enabling them to maintain their position. And so Moth having used Immortality Field is bad because that has a much longer cooldown than Fortify or Wraith or Teleport or anything like that. So that's why you don't want to have taken this position here. You don't want to be relying on the same corner as the rest of your team because you're just straight up not vulnerable if you move into a separate position, and you would be vulnerable should they push you, as they are right now. Choi might be about to go for a hook. I'm not sure, and I wouldn't advise it. But uh, um, okay. Oh my god. Come on, dude. Ah. Okay, regardless. Troy's pushing up. Which is good. You want to be forcing a close range fight at this point. There's no reason why you would force a long range fight because then you'd have access to crossfires, and then there's no position that your deepest can take that will be able to survive. Rascal or Moth and Violet need to rotate. Please, 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 please. Rotate to this position. Why are you not? Okay. This is the good. Oh my god. Why? No. Moth. Please. So main issue I'm seeing with this support play right now is primarily that um, they're not playing. They're playing. Um, so let's see. In first round, initially they played on the high ground when they shouldn't have, and so they were vulnerable at that point. They tried to get extended value, which they wouldn't have gotten otherwise. Sorry. So because of that, they ended up getting super pressured out. So now, um, at this point, they're playing the same angle. Just they're just generally very, very reliant on Smurf and Choi being able to play aggressive and being able to play in positions where they get a lot of value when in fact they're not getting that value right now. And so Violet and Moth need to be doing something about that, and they need to be rotating into positions where they can actually support consistently, and as well as just being alive. Because right now they are the opening for Vancouver. They are always the opening, and Vancouver are going to be exploiting that constantly here, which they're doing very well. Sominsu, admittedly, that engage was poorly planned out, and Sominsu couldn't really get the value that he otherwise needed, but it was they adapted well to that, uh, having had the mistake been made. Um, but yeah, like, oh my god, don't, um, don't tell me this is, ah, why are you, ah, why are you next to the choke here? There's no value you get from being next to the choke here. Why Choi is moving back, Smurf is here, Shield is there. You've got nothing there. Why have you not already rotated to the much safer position that your Hanzo is instead in right now? If you did that, then Hanzo would be capable of actually contesting that, as opposed to you just getting pressured out from up here from a hero who shouldn't be alive right now if you're presenting the pressure, because there's nothing that Somin2 can get out of this. Um, if the support line isn't so vulnerable, because Violet and Moth are both so consistently just in super vulnerable positions, extremely reliant on their front line, despite their front line being constantly pushed through and constantly, uh, like I expect they themselves recognize that they're not acting as the kind of attention that they need to be, and so yeah, it's not the support line isn't looking good. Neither of them, and I'm not sure who it's starting with. It looks like a lot of the time like it's with Moth, um, but this isn't. There's no value which either Bap or Anna end up getting from being in closer range there. And especially when you're pulling back here, the only value that you'd get is getting past shield, and you only want to be having the line of sight with them. Moth is building up Immerfield, yes, and I think he's overly concerned about building up Immerfield and having that be, or not Immerfield, Amp Matrix rather. But if you're extremely concerned about building up Amp Matrix here, um, then it would be much better just to have your frontline play much more passive. I don't like this style which Shock are employing, where they're trying to play more aggressively, trying to farm Amp Matrix and then getting minimal value out of it, because they're incredibly reliant on a frontline that isn't there. Um, but yeah, so that's the main issue I'm seeing right now. It's yeah. Um, what's this? Nothing. Okay, cool. Um, okay. He takes that position. Moth's thing immediately dies. Why is Rappel around? Oh my god. Okay. If in case you can't see this, Rappel is here. And so he's got an amp matrix. So it's this would not be happening if there was someone available to counter pressure that. They shouldn't be playing in a kind of a 5-1 style right now, is what Shock are doing. They're playing 5 people in one position and one person in another position, and the other person isn't getting value. The 5 people are in themselves vulnerable, as they don't have the ability to kind of survive this. It did end up working. But the way in which they executed that was a way which could have been punished had Vancouver executed it significantly faster. Um, and had they been able to hold their positions and they themselves um, not being so quick to try and get value. So Mintu, I think he was overly excited by the opening that could potentially be created by punishing Shock support line, but it's it doesn't make it any less of a really bad mistake uh, from Shock in that, and it's a consistent one which they're making all the way through this. Um, and so now there are no swaps as far as I can see. Vancouver gonna continue to play this. I don't mind this on defense here. I think um, you're you're wanting to build out to another immo in why do I call it immo field? I mean amp matrix, by the way. But regardless, let's keep going. Um, Architect is going to want to try and create an opening with Dragon and punish the close range nature of the point, but Vancouver instead. So this point you want to be playing. So you've got very close range. You've got two main corners there. Then you've got a separate corner there. You've got high ground also surrounding it. And so what Architect is going to be wanting to do is he's going to be wanting to take control of this, although it's fairly vulnerable. It's a very good defense for um, whatchamacallit, for Vancouver to be able to take. Um, and it's not something which you can very easily just kind of um, how would you say it's not something you can very easily take control of because you're going to have people in the high ground. But at the same time, that's a large reason why you want to be charging out Matrix. I think on this point, they're still trying to steamroll this, which I don't like much. But regardless, Arista's playing split. Um, hang on. Okay, 1 second. Uh, okay. But yeah. So what was I saying? Uh, so yeah, they're playing that split. So on the second point, they're trying to go for Shocker trying to go for Steamroll here. I still don't like a lot of these comps here. I think Farah is significantly good here, and I think although I think both teams want to be playing for first point, and so then they kind of use that to accentuate that. Uh, okay. Rappel is walled off. Or no, Somitsu is walled off. Never mind. So he's fine. Um, um, okay, so both teams have used a bunch of resources here. Mainly in terms of wall, because you don't have wall, and wall is a significant part of this comp. Both of these comps enables you to isolate individuals here. If you're able to isolate people, then you win. That's how the entire game works. If you're isolated from your resources, if you can't use your resources, then you die. That's health as a resource. If you're isolated from, or it's somewhat called isolation, but I would refer to it as isolation because health is basically irrelevant if you're isolated. If you're isolated, then you will die. Like a 2 new HP hero will die. Um, but yeah. Um, um, Roscoe just kind of uses that ult. That's fine. No one's really getting anything out of this so far. I think Vancouver are going to have an advantage here because Roscoe's ult there doesn't really present uh, do nearly as much as it could. Again, Shocker kind of feeding into Vancouver's um, goals in the Vancouver want to be playing this um, relatively quite slowly, and they want to be playing the front line fairly safely because they have access to BAP, which can mean that they can survive for a long time, and so they're just waiting for an opening to be created. It's like they're just waiting for Shock to make a mistake, make misposition, then they hard abuse that. They'll set up into a position where they abuse that, and then they use it. It's um, it's something which you have to play very specifically against. You have to be very specifically aggressive against it. You can't be trying to throw mails like ults into it because that's not going to work. Because ults kind of power spike kind of thing. If you have a single power spike, then it's not going to work if there's something that counters it. If you have two power spikes, then if they have one resource, then that's going to work. If they you want to be creating a vulnerability in them, and right now Shocker just they don't really seem to have much of a goal, or if they do, then they're not really accomplishing it very well. Right now, what I think they should be doing is that they should be working to take control of the high grounds, and so as a result, I would um, prefer if they used uh, they actually they both use the positions that they've been given. If so, I would want so I'd want Arteta to take this position, and I'd want why am I using my re? For some reason I started using my other thing. So I would prefer if they Architect took this position, so moved up into this position using the value that Smurf from Rascal gave in being able to survive. You have a lot of ability from this, and so I think somewhat the lack of utility with lacking Zen is kind of showing here because you don't have the ability to actually kind of hard engage, let's just say, and so you give them the other team a lot of time to do whatever they want to do, which is what Vancouver want to happen. Um, but at the same time, the ults also need to be actually getting used, and they need to actually be getting used specifically for the purpose of taking control of this high ground and then using that to rain down on bumper and stitch and people. Um, but yeah. Uh, um, So nothing's really happening. Smurf is slightly low, but he's going to survive it. And then, so you kind of saw, so the fight hasn't actually gone for that long so far. So technically, Shark do have an advantage if they win this from here right now, and they can win this from here right now. Choi was taking a crossfire there, which I don't like because it takes way too long to set up, and you're vulnerable throughout the entire time, as was shown in the pressure from Slime onto Artet when he was over there. But regardless, let's from here. So luckily Hanzo doesn't have to actually use any resources uh, when he drops off. He only gives up position, and Sominsu chose not to hold that, which I don't like that much. And at least Choi was there, and so that the flank did work. But I think Um, I think Architect could have been a lot more punished for their lack of aggression there. And then that would have enabled Choi to actually take a significant angle there, as opposed to just immediately die. What's he doing now? He's in the back line. Gets left. That actually wasn't a it wasn't a great position because the backline was still significantly vulnerable. You could see that they would have died had they not used resources. I would have preferred that they used cover instead, but they didn't have access to that because they weren't immediately next to it. And I think there's a lot of work that could be done there. Um, in just having your support line position to cover that is separate from their front line, because the support line is not relying on the front line, the support line is supporting the front line. It is the win conditions that are relying on the front line. It's not a like yeah, I don't like the um trying to be as aggressive and as uh high potential as a DPS as the damage. Or at least it's not a playstyle which I think works against this. Um, I just brought it back to the very start. It's like 6. Wait, no, it's like 8. Okay, it's 9 then. Okay, this is around here. Um, I'm probably gonna end up after this point, but uh, Troy and Architect die because they're split as far as I can see. Semitsu dies because he's been using resources like crazy because he's crazy aggressive and I love it. Um, but yeah, it's not an issue because everyone else is dead. I think at that point people some people can kind of look at that and see, oh no, he died. Um, he made a mistake, but honestly, I think that's worth it for um like material losses. Like positional gain is better than it is just way better than um, kind of, or it's worth the sacrifice of kind of material loss in losing Reaper, um, especially at that point in the fight when you have basically a guaranteed win. Um, so Architect again, he's trying to force out this position. Why are you not taking the high ground, Re? Um, so Shocker just being continuously forced back. So Choi has now actually switched to the D.Va, which I find interesting because then that implies that Architect is the main win condition of this comp, and so they just want to push this entire corner, which so far they're doing relatively poorly, but then they're punishing Sominsu at the same time, and then they're able to actually peel, which is decent. Architect is popping back off, but yeah, that's decent actually. But yeah. Uh, I said that's just the angle that he needed to take. I think as soon as you take control of that angle, and as soon as you push them back, I think Vancouver failed to recognize the D.Va swap, and they didn't play nearly as fast as they should have. And so as a result, you're wait, are they losing? Shocker losing? Oh dear. Oh no. Ouch, dude. Ouch. Okay. Okay. Um. I'm not even gonna go back and see why they lost. I would expect it's primarily overconfidence, and which is normally what it is. Too many teams still get way too overconfident after that. Uh, Stitch dies. Summitsu and Stitch are so. Man, I want to talk about this Doomfist real quick. Re. Um, okay, so everything has just died, but I'm gonna need you to, anyone watching, to ignore that. So I just want to talk about this real quick, because I love it, even if it's bad right now. So what they want to set up for is they want to set up for a so you make your front line way more threatening at close range here, and so what you want to be doing is in using that is you want to force them into a close range fight. You want to play very carefully around here, uh, way further back using this, the other one, and then just hide there, and then Doom has complete control of the high ground. There's no way that Architect takes control of the high ground here. So what Shock have basically converted to doing is they've recognized that they can't actually take control of the high ground properly with the Hunter here, and so that's why they switched to Diva, which worked much better. But then, kind of, how to say it? Um, what you're working with from there is that you're much more vulnerable initially, and so you're much more reliant on cover, which isn't completely abundant here, and so you end up kind of somewhat playing into their hand because you're enabling Architect to basically just take a large angle here, and you're enabling everyone to pop off from here. Moth has Amp Matrix up, and so if you're just winning on Amp Matrix, then that means that the other team aren't playing around cover properly, and they're not adapting to the uh, situation. Like, you should be able to disrupt this, um, or your goal should be to disrupt this heavily. You're allowing them to get value out of their resources here, very easily by allowing them the position. So you either want to play super passively here, you want to give them like a bit of the point until you're actually capable of um, pushing in, as in you've got kind of shields ready, you've got resources ready, so that should take like a couple seconds. Or you play super aggressive, you play way far up, you charge your ults, and then you use that to deny them any point position on the point. This would be much better on another point, on a separate point. I think, kind of Paris somewhat maybe. Um, Paris first, especially, is decent in terms of having the cover, but yeah, it is a swap pick, and so it's not really something that you'd ever be comfortable on for a longer period of time.
The shock, though, so.
Don't destroy mirrors. Um, and then everything dies. Okay. I'm a close stream now. Anyone who watched thinks I'll probably put this on YouTube or something. But yeah.